Any luck? Any luck?
Hello, can people hear us
Hello.
at home?
Can't hear Coco.
Can't hear Nick anymore. I've no idea what's happened there.
Let's have a look.
Any luck? Any luck there?
Bear with me, Nick. I'm going to try and figure out what's going on.
Oh, that was a noise. It's coming through. Two oh five. That's good. Couple of gremlins.
Sorry, Nick. If you could try unmuting and putting your camera back on.
Any
Yes, we're up and running.
Okay.
We're up and running.
sitting
Don't know
back.
what happened.
Fingers are here. I'm not touching it.
Had a little bit of a meltdown. Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second jam event. Thank you for coming online. Great to see so many of you here. This one will be compared by the magnificent Rob Hitchin, and we'll be hearing from Nick Cohen, who's a video editor with many years experience. I shan't say how many years because it will probably depress you, Nick. So
It would.
So, as per usual, can you ensure that you are using the Q&A for questions? Obviously, asking questions of professionals is what we're all about. It's the main thing to do here. Chat, please don't clog that chat with stupid memes and whatnot. And enjoy the experience. Get as much out of this as you can. Nick's got a fascinating career to tell you about, so I'm going to hand you over to Rob now and let you guys get on with it.
Can I just check how do you unmute or mute the chat?
Go to mute all notifications. Yeah. Turn that on. Yeah.
Sorry, Nick. Be with you in a sec.
All right.
And then you won't have relentless boxes popping up.
So
should be
pop
all right.
back to this.
Yeah. Should be good.
I don't understand technology. Never mind. Should do really. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's he gone? There he is.
There he is.
All right.
Seamless, mate. How are you? I haven't seen you for 11 years.
That beard's looking good, mate.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was pretty much down here not too long ago. I started to look like Cousin It. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good.
Thank you for joining us here today. So the reason we're doing these jam things is because we are in kind of the Midlands, and so we're away from some of the big meccas like London, obviously, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham. But this gives us a way of talking to our mates, really, and to get a bit of background on how you got into where you are now. What are you doing now? We do have a clip that you've sent over, so John will play that in when you're ready. Probably it's going to be as seamless as it was when we started, I'm sure. But yeah. All right. So if we kick off, so what are the early days of Nick? Where did you sort of grow up, and what's your first steps into sort of academia?
Oh God. Okay. I won't go right back to childbirth, but I'll go to sort of you
can remember that.
Yeah. So obviously, me and Rob, we studied together. We did media production course, and it was good. It was a good grounding in finding out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, because you get you get to dip your toes into a bit of everything. But I was pretty much like right at home in the edit suite right off the bat. Liked the idea of putting the story together. What didn't really see myself running around the country with a camera on my shoulder like Rob did. But so I was pretty much straight out of uni. I was like, right, let's get down to London where the post houses are, send my CV out to everyone. So I was CV bashing around sort of Soho, trying to get my foot in the door. And it is a bit of a sort of lottery at that stage. You're just kind of trying to get a contact, trying to get your foot in. So you get a job making teas and coffees, and then you can sort of show what you can do. And luckily, because of the course, I knew how to use a bit of the software, knew how to use Avid. So once I got my foot in the door, I was sort of able to work my way up into a sort of technical role.
How long did it take you to get your foot in the door? Because I mean, that's one thing that I think all of us struggled with when we graduated. We sort of because we did all right. Why did you choose Lincoln? Just out of interest. I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Because of the facilities, really, the equipment that I could get my hands on, because they
Yeah.
had good edits, good cameras, and actually that was a good choice because the degree itself is not doesn't it's not really an industry where you need a degree necessarily, but you need experience. You need to know what you're talking about, and you need to be able to show what you can do. And so from that side, it was good, because once I did get in, people were kind of surprised that I knew how to use Avid and knew that I was sort of a step up from what they expected, I think, just because I'd had that sort of training.
Yeah, I think was it Final Cut Pro 10 that was around at the time as more of an available thing, and then Avid was just extraordinarily expensive.
Exactly. It was really, really hard to get your hands on Avid. So I wouldn't have been able to learn it except from in that educational environment at that time. Now it's different. You can get trials and whatnot and get your hands on it much, much, much more easily. And then, I mean, Avid, a Final Cut Pro kind of came into my professional career and then went again because Avid has always been the mainstay for what I do. It hasn't always been the mainstay for other types of content creation for YouTube or TikTok or anything like that. But for big scale TV shows, it's still the one that people go to.
That composer, or
Media
it must
Composer.
be something else now, is it? Is it the same?
No, it's still Avid Media Composer. Yeah, that's still what it is. Yeah.
And just where you were saying, like getting your grounding at university, so you didn't just do editing, did you? You sort of dipped your toe into lots of different things. So, but one of them actually you got quite a prestigious award for, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, directing, we directed, you produced, and I directed our final year piece, which we won an award for, which was an amazing experience. And I suppose a part of my thinking when I went for editing was, oh, maybe I'll do editing for a few years and that will open doors up to directing or other avenues. But actually, firstly, I liked editing and I stuck with it, but also you do kind of get pigeonholed. People look for people with experience in the sort of job you're applying for, obviously. So it's not like you're in a huge company where you can apply for a transfer and say, I'm going to try filming out or I'm going to try directing out. Once you start down a path, you do just sort of accumulate experience in that path and end up sort of staying with it, really.
So when you got that, well, when you graduated, so did you have family down in London, or so you're from Reading, are you?
Yeah. So I mean, it is, yeah, I had family down, so um I was sort of within, Reading's only an hour west of London, if that. So I was within the scope of being able to pop in for interviews and things without it being too hard. Um, I mean, I'd say it's a bit more regional now than it was when I was looking for jobs because there's a lot more up in Manchester. There's been a big push since I've started to sort of commission more outside of London. So I know editors who work down in Brighton and commute up to London. They live in Brighton and they're sort of based down there and they do 90% of their work there. And then occasionally they'll come up and do a gig in London. So, and in fact, once I start, not to jump ahead too much, once I started cutting kids' TV, they moved up to Manchester. So I was commuting from London up to Manchester Monday to Friday
Jesus.
and sleeping in a hotel sort of for 5 days or whatever, 5 nights, and then coming back on the weekend. Because
Wow.
I was at a point then where I needed to transition into broadcast TV. So I was trying to accumulate credits. So I was like, this is going to be worth my while just to do it for a few gigs really, so that I can build my CV up a bit.
So what the first sort of programs you started to cut, was it like commercial? Because I guess being a freelancer, are you still freelancing?
Still freelance. It is pretty much all freelance, really, and unless
So,
you're in a sort of more of the corporate side of things, then you might have a staff job in an agency.
so what sort of things did you start to cut? Was it corporate stuff like Tesco, Marks and Spencers, and things like that, or was it straight into War and Peace, Game of Thrones? Oh, you've frozen with a big smile on your face. Bear with. Oh, is he trying to get back in?
Yeah, looks like it. Bear with me. I'll pick up on this one. Mhm. Mhm. Then I've got to make a presenter again.
I'm so happy. What a happy chappy.
It seems like he's having the time of his
He
life.
does, doesn't he? At least he didn't freeze with a frown.
He should be able to.
Hello, sorry, am I back?
You're frozen with a massive smile on your face, which is very nice. But we're hearing you.
That's the main thing. If you can hear me, and as long as it's a smile, that's fine.
Yeah, no, we've got you back.
Okay, great.
So we were just starting off talking about what you were cutting. You know, you come out of university, you've just won an award for a documentary that you made. Oh no, I'm going to be cutting training videos for Sainsbury's. Is that kind of a?
So with my staff positions, my second job included some editing. So I started to kind of transition away from just being edit support to cutting corporate videos for, like you say, Tesco, Sainsbury's, when I was in a staff job. So I built up a year or two of that before I sort of had the confidence to think, okay, I can actually go in somewhere.
When you say staff job, where was that?
So my first job was exclusively a post-production facility. So people hire out the space, hire out the edits and cut their shows there. I moved to a job where they also produced their own content. They had a filming department and they would make their own stuff. And I chose that company, or tried to get a job there specifically because there was an editing element to it. So they weren't just exclusively facility. So yeah, their clients that they would go and film their videos for, I would have an opportunity to get in the cutting room myself and build up that experience. And that's a much friendlier environment to learn your trade than just being chucked in, with a client in a room. I mean, that's terrifying. You'd never really do that to yourself or the client, because you wouldn't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But
what do you start off with?
Two,
Sorry, Nick, when you're an edit assistant or a runner or whatever you started off with, what were your sort of what was your main jobs?
So the runner job is anyone can do it. It's teas, coffees, answering the phone. You're supporting in that side, and you're really not meant to be in that job more than about a year. It's just meant to be a foot in the door. So if you're languishing in that kind of job for 2 years or whatever, time to get out, because you need to be in a company where they can progress you forward.
What was the company's name?
That one was going bust, actually, and is bust, because that was a time of the industry changing from small boutique post-production companies to these huge ones which have 50 edit suites. So but I would say it's not a bad thing to be part of a company going bust, because you get to do quite a lot of stuff because they can't hire anyone else. I was the technical manager by the time I left after 2 years, because there was no one else there.
Fortuitous timing.
Yeah. So then when you're the edit support, you need to understand the workflows of a broadcast TV show. You need to understand how to ingest the material, how to move, how to support the edit in every way, basically arranging playouts for viewings, the whole work. There's a whole workflow that you will learn sort of on the job, really.
When you started, I guess it was when I started, I was on Digibeta and physical tapes, and I guess that's moved to SD cards, SSD cards, or just on the cloud.
the beauty of my job at the moment is I don't need to know.
Well, yeah, well, you've got that.
So I'm now, you know, I don't know how they do it, but basically I have edit support behind me, and now my job is more of a creative job. There's like 30% of it that's technical because I need to operate the software to a high standard. But really, everyone I work with can operate the software to a high standard. So the thing that separates you later in your career is your ability to tell the story and put the show together, basically. But yeah, it's not tapes anymore. That's all I know.
So moving from that that first runner sort of assistant role into your next bit, how did that go? When was that?
So yeah, it was 4 years before I sort of went into going freelance, or
Yeah, well, yeah, going from staff.
yeah.
What was the decision to do that as well? It's because I guess to explain, students, freelance, and staff are two very different things. Staff, you have security, but you can have stagnation. Freelance, you can do anything, but there's no security to a certain extent. So tell me.
Exactly. So really, the decision to go freelance is kind of can be sort of made for you, because there's only so far some companies can progress you. And I would say there are some big agencies where you could have an editing career as a staff editor, but it's few and far between. So you just hit a ceiling quite early on, both in terms of what you can earn and how interesting the work becomes. So it was always on my radar that you're going to have to take the plunge to go freelance unless some staff job appears that, I wasn't expecting. So when you go freelance, you're earning more, but you're working less frequently. So you definitely have a tricky transition of managing your budget and sort of trying to even that out over the first few years before you've got your regular clients coming in. I mean, luckily those first few jobs were quite badly paid, so I wasn't earning a lot and then suddenly adjusting my lifestyle. I
Right.
was earning very little the whole time at the beginning, and then
But like living wise, was it a matter of a house share, or how did you survive with a relatively low income in the big smoke?
yeah, I mean, it was house shares. It was house shares in London. So it is expensive, but also
Oh no, lost you again, Nick. Sorry, mate. Bear with. Uh, I know Wi-Fi, right? Uh, hey, Nick, you might need to drop out and come back. Sorry, my tech support has run away to go and sort out a problem. There we go. How do I accept in? There you are. All right, Nick, I've just got to set you up as a presenter. Hang on a second, mate. Bear with everyone, just got to try and sort this out. Nick, just so you know, John's going to be back in a second to we could get you back in. I can't do it. Oh no, can I? Maybe I can. There we go. So you're back in, I think. View gallery. So I can see that you got some questions come up, which is great.
Right, sorry about that, mate.
That's all right, mate.
And next time, if it goes again, I'll join, but I might be called Madeline, and I'm going to try my wife's computer if it doesn't work again.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm seeing you now. That's good. So where were we? If I go into view, speaker, there you are. What were we talking about?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, living down in London was house shares, and you know, look, it's not. I don't want to give the impression that it's like a squalid existence, but it's like starting out in any career. You're scraping by for a few years basically before, you know, freelance is really when you start, you know, seeing the fruits of your labor really, and you're considered to have some experience behind you, and you can start to command a better rate. And obviously a few years into that, then you get some regularity of work as well.
And what was the I guess your first big show, or the first show that you felt a little bit intimidated by, maybe?
I mean, honestly, I feel intimidated every single gig, because it's always an unknown. Honestly, every show is different, and you always go in thinking, God, what am I walking into here? What problems am I going to have to solve? So you always feel that. But I felt the big one for me was The Apprentice, because it was a big show that I'd heard of. It was an ongoing series, and I knew that if I could do well on that, it would be a series that would come back year after year and be a bit of a bedrock of work. So I've done
How
it.
many seasons is it now?
20. I'm going to go on to it again, and it's season 20, the next one. So
Wow.
it's been really helpful to kind of have that in my career, because the edits run for 9 months of the year almost. So you can tell them that, look, I've got a slot here. Can you fit me in? And there's not many jobs like that. So it's really kind of been a good one. So I felt definitely terrified of that.
Sorry, again, some questions. Season 20 of The Apprentice is what we're talking about. So how does a show like that run? What does that look like from your side of the world? So obviously there's a certain amount of time. So I guess it's almost like a year-long gig. You've got pre-production, then you've got production, and then it comes to you. Are they still shooting by the time it gets to you?
For the very earliest episodes, they can be, depending on what slot I choose. Yeah, for the first 3 or 4 episodes, they'll still be filming. But you're right, they are casting the next series while they're finishing the edit of the previous one. So it's a year-long operation, and you basically get, like pretty much like any edit, you get put in a room with an edit producer next to you. You get maybe 60 hours of material and a brief about what they think the episode should be, and then it's over to you to tell that story, or to tell whatever story. You might find a better story, you know, it doesn't have to be what the brief is. That's just your starting point. So you're then in a process of like a week of just watching all the material, organizing the material, trying to get your head around what the best story is for that show. Before you sort of even start producing your first cut, really.
Wow. So what does the edit producer do? Are they sent down by the director, or where do they come into play?
Not really. There's not much of a connection between the people who filmed it and the people who edit it now. There is at a high level, there's sort of series producers who will float in and out of your edit suite, but they're not working next to you directly. So they're there really to support you in the edit, which might be writing voiceover, They'll also be watching the footage and writing the script next to you. They'll be watching the very early rough cuts of things that I've made. So I'll create a sort of very rough sequence of a scene, say, what do you think? What do you think's strong in this or weak in this? What should we do with it? So they're sort of my first kind of level of feedback on what I'm producing. And they'll also watch raw rushes themselves and say, I think this scene should be about X, Y, Z, give it a go. So we work together basically all the time. Yeah.
And have you ever had a rough one? Have you ever had somebody that you
all the
found
time
difficult? All the time?
Actually, well, no, it's a personality thing. You've got to find a way of working with different personalities. So some people you just mesh straight away. The way you work is, you bounce off each other. Sometimes you just rub up against people, but you're in a room with them for 12 or 14 weeks for one episode. So you've got to find a way to make it work and be on the same side. When you're presenting your cut, you don't want to be presenting a cut to the higher ups, which one person thinks is great and one person has doubts about, So you do become good at sort of smoothing that relationship, even if it's not someone you'd be best buddies with normally.
Yeah. And with the edit, is it because I know there's different types and they've got to go through different stages. Well, I don't actually, because I haven't done it for such a long time. But I guess there's the offline, there's the online, there's the graphics, there's the color correction. How much is you, or has some of that been done before it gets to you?
So I'm working with the raw rushes. No one's watched them before. Comes out of the camera to me. And when I leave it, well, during the edit, if there's graphics involved that are important to the story, then we will get them commissioned alongside the edit. And a separate company will work on those graphics and send them into the edit and we'll cut them in. But I will take it from the raw rushes up to what they call picture lock, which is when everyone's watched it multiple times, everyone's happy. The cut is not going to change story-wise from that point on, but it goes through a process of a more refined audio mix, a color grade, finished graphics. All of that sort of stuff happens after I'm out the door. And when all of that kind of polishing has happened, it's then ready to go out on the telly or on Netflix or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So if we rewind a little bit, I will get to your questions, guys. It's just that we're going to do this bit first and then come to them. So it'll be a bit of retrospective in a moment. Obviously, you've been through quite a tricky time in the case of COVID. That must have been an interesting reset. And has the post-production world changed since then?
Yeah, it's now, I mean, like it has for a lot of industries, it's brought remote working right into it. I mean, that was something that no one thought would work ever. We were always going into the edit suite and working in person, but we now use remote desktop systems to remote into the editing software. So we don't have to have big kit. We don't have to bring the whole edit suite into our houses. I'm just doing it on my regular laptop and an extra screen. And pretty much every job can be a hybrid of working at home or going into the edit nowadays. So it's changed it in that regard.
And so the edit producer contacts you remotely, or how does that work?
So when you're doing that, I mean, quite often when you're working with an edit producer, even in the same room, you'll have a bit of the day where you're talking about stuff, but there'll be large parts of the day where you're headphones on. I need to get my head into something and work on it on my own before I present it. So that works okay remotely anyway, because you'll have I'll just work on something. They'll also have access to my cut, so I can just send them a message, say, I popped a cut, at the top of the project, watch it, give me a call. So we just work like that.
Right, mate, I'm going to go just into a few questions because they're sort of like they're backlogging and they're starting to quibble. Uh, okay. Do you have any specific genre that you enjoy working with? That's from Jack Dawes.
Yeah, good question. Honestly, it's the variety. Variety is what keeps the job permanently interesting. I'm on a true crime kind of BBC forensics show at the moment. It's grim. There's like dead bodies everywhere. It's like, droning music. It's like, how can you make this, kind of atmospheric? And I'm going to go into next week, The Apprentice, which is basically a comedy show in many senses. So you want that transition. What I would say is the bigger the budget, in many ways, the easier it is to cut. You just want to work on stuff of a high standard because when stuff hasn't had money spent on the shoot, it's going to be hard and there's not going to be a lot of time for you to fix the problems. When something's got a good budget, big budget, you go in, it's been beautifully shot, everyone wants to spend their time on it. So, that's my goal really, is how high up the sort of production standards can I get?
And do you work not just for, like you mentioned, Netflix earlier on? Is it just broadcast you work on, or do you work on the streaming shows? And is it very different?
It's a different world at the moment. There's no, for the people I work with, there's no crossover. And I think the actual workflow is a bit different as well, because the big strength of Avid Media Composer, which I use, is that many people can work on the same material at the same time. So we're all sharing our media. From my understanding, in the sort of YouTube world or those sorts of things, that's not really necessary. And there's better tools to kind of have that fast turnaround. So there is a bit of a divide between the sort of traditional broadcasters and the Netflix as well. Netflix like to sort of approve everyone that works on their shows. They kind of have quite a tight rein on that. So there is a bit of a sort of divide there.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay, so some whimsical ones. What's the most annoying project that you've worked on?
Um, uh, I cut a show called Soldier for BBC One,
Right.
which was horrific, because it was meant to be following new recruits as they learn to sort of join the army. It'd been filmed so badly that you kind of, I mean, they're all in camouflage gear for a start, and it was all
Right.
shot very wide, so it just kind of looked like a
Oh.
big green grey blob running around in the fields. Couldn't really identify any characters, and there wasn't really, no one had been like radio mic'd properly, so you couldn't pick out stories. I mean, we went through the ringer on that. It's kind of become notorious for how awful the edit was, because
Really?
you just produce a cut, you spend ages on it, and it'd just be torn to pieces. Viewing after viewing, nothing that we could have done differently. The damage had been done by the time the material got to us, but you just got to put a brave face on it and have another go, basically.
Okay. And what does again, in your early career, what kept you going when times were a bit tough and you were, it was, the work wasn't great and the pay wasn't great?
I mean, I think panic of failure. Yeah. I mean, you're just kind of on that track and you're just trying to, I was like, there's not much else I'm going to be good at, so it's got to work.
One of the questions as well was actually, did you always want to be an editor, or did you want to be something else? I know I can remember at one point, I think we were in the first year and you had a bit of a crisis of confidence and you're like, I should have done X, Y, and Z instead. I can't be dealing with this.
Yeah. Do you know what? There's lots of times where I've thought, what am I doing? And I think people do think that about their jobs anyway, in general. When it's a bad gig or when the money's not coming in, you're always going to have that in any job. But the further I've gone into it, the more I felt at home in it. And you also just start to get good. You really start to get in your groove quite a lot later in your career. And the idea of sort of switching or going back a few stages to change course has just kind of gone now. I'm just I'm just on this till retirement if I can be.
This is me. What's your most satisfying project that you worked on? What was the one that you're like, yeah, that was cool?
Oh, that's quite tough. I did. It's finished now, but there was a series for BBC Two called Hospital, which was quite a well-regarded show. It was patient stories in hospitals, but it also would always say something wider about the way the NHS was run. So it had a complexity to it. And my show got pulled up the running order and made episode 1. So I was very proud of that and very pleased to have cut an one of that series.
Wow. So looking at employing younger people that are just qualifying, what do people look out for? What makes them stand out as an editor? Is it a matter of should they have a degree? Should they have an apprenticeship? Should they just go for work experience? Should they do a hybrid of all of those things?
I think if the degree is going to give you the hands-on experience you need to progress and develop that side of it, then do it. I think that's that's the key, is getting your skill level up, because people don't necessarily look at the qualifications. Once your foot's in the door, they'll look at the skill level. And if your degree's been able, or your qualification of any kind has been able to get you sort of comfortable with the software you're going to be using, or the camera you're going to be using, or the workflows, then it's going to stand you in good stead. But what I would say is that getting your foot in the door is tricky. There is a bit of just hammering your CV in, using any contacts you can get, talking to people. But once you're in, you will stand out if you're sharp, if you're attentive, if you're good at your job, because everyone is always looking for good people to work for. They're always putting together crews and productions for their next job. That's how the industry works, is they're putting together an edit for the next gig, and they're like, okay, who's on my list? Who do we like? Top 10 names, let's call them. Okay, they're busy, let's do the next. So everyone's got those lists. So if you're sharp and attentive and also interested in what the company you're working for is making, for goodness sake, if you ever get any work experience or anything in a company, go and watch what they make so that you can talk about it, because they will say, oh, this is what we're making. They'll say, what do you think about it? And if you're saying, oh, I've never seen it, it's like you're off to a dud straight away. Say you've watched it, you love it, ask them questions about how it's made, then they'll be like, oh, there's a bright spark. That person, next time an opportunity comes up, I'll give them a buzz.
Yeah, and you can do that. All companies got a website, and on their website they'll have programs that they've done previously, where you'll be able to look at it, and you also research the person that's interviewing you potentially, because they might be on the credits as well. A couple of questions about software. So we run Premiere here, so we do the Adobe suite because we can't afford to do Avid. But there's also things like DaVinci, and there's all sorts of like popular stuff now like CapCut, which work with short form media, so like TikTok, Instagram. Have you ever come across those, or is it worth people getting into those? Is the principle the same thing?
Yeah, CapCut's the only one I haven't got experience of those, but DaVinci and Premiere and Avid, it's all the same principle. It's all the same principle, really. So learn as much as you can, learn as many as you can, but also don't be afraid of transitioning from one to the other. If you know Premiere and there's a company with Avid software and they give you an opportunity, say, yeah, great, no problem. And for God's sake, download the trial on the weekend and bash the hell out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
But the principles will be the same. It's timeline editing. You're putting pictures and sound down to tell a story. The workflows will be different. But I had, Final Cut. All my work changed from Avid to Final Cut Pro after a few years of being freelance. You've got to be flexible and think, okay, no problem. I'll just learn it. It'll take a bit of time, and then that's another string to my bow.
Yeah, and if you are swapping between them, it's just a matter of sort of brushing off the dust and getting back into it.
Yeah, it's amazing how your mind retains all those shortcuts, and when you're in front of the other one, they all sort of come back to you. So yeah, you don't have to commit to a technology at all, and I'd say it's just learn as many as you can, really.
Do you do any trailer editing? from Shay?
Good question. I mean, the short form editing is a whole other skill, really, like real short form editing, like 30-second or 60-second spots. I cut one advert in my career, and it was like, I spent a week on 60 seconds, So it's a whole different way of editing and going over and over and over the same thing. I've done I'll tell you what, a good way into broadcast TV, if you're cutting short programs, is development work, where they are making trailers for shows that don't exist yet. So you're making kind of a flashy trailer for a show that you're pitching to a channel.
A taste
So
of tape.
that's, yeah, you taste it, exactly. So that sort of can be a bit like trailer editing, but that's my only exposure to it.
Yeah. I remember doing one of those I think it was a nightclub in Bradford. And it was just out for a night out with these guys that were going to be part of this pitch, and it was quite good fun. It was messy. And then there was another one I did, which was on in Doncaster, I think, and it was again it was Channel 5 program that never got made. But I think it's quite surprising how much doesn't get made. Would you say that?
Absolutely, it's really hard to get projects off the ground, and you'll make a taste to tape. They'll say, we kind of like it. We'll give you a bit more development money to make a slightly improved taste to tape with a bit of money. You might go through all these stages of a bit more money, a bit more, give it another go, and they still might not commission it at the end, So the development is a whole part of the industry, and it's a good one to bear in mind, because what you're cutting isn't going to go on TV. So people will take a chance on you cutting it. That's what I found. People would let me cut stuff because it's not going on telly anyway. So the standard is lower, but you're still interacting and meeting people who make TV shows. You're meeting all the right people, and the people you're working with also make TV shows, and they start to gain faith in you. And lo and behold, then you start to get your own shows.
There's another interesting one which came up was about networking. So do you? I mean, I don't know about you, but it's not my favorite thing in the world going out to bars and things and going to a network event. Is that something that you had to do in your early career?
Do you know what? I'm so bad at it.
Just through work?
I'm so bad at it. I never did it, and I just think your best business development is always to do a great job, because people will take you with them. That's what I've found. You do a job, people, take you with them. You can do a lot of good when you're mixing with people by just saying, Ben, how can I get an opportunity? Is there anything coming up? If there is, I'm keen. Give me so you can talk to people in that way. Anytime you come across them, people will understand that you're trying to further your career. And you can say, look, I'm desperate to get, make the transition from corporates into TV. How do you do it? And so I've done that, but I've never personally done the let's go have lunch or any of that. People do, but not for me.
Yeah. Have you got any projects that you turned down, or you have been able to turn down, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, there's because I'm only one person and I can only do one job at a time. There's a sort of, you get a FOMO of, if I take this job, what if something better comes along? So you don't want to, I've definitely turned down jobs where I think that's not really doing much for my CV. You need to keep the CV improving. Your list of programs, that's the only thing on my CV. It's the list of credits, that I've got. And you want it to change every year. So, I mean, every year, The Apprentice, I'm fortunate, would book me for 6 months of the year if they could, but that's depriving me of other opportunities. And my CV would just look the same for, year after year. So I can't think specifically other than The Apprentice, but definitely you have to pick your jobs carefully.
Yeah. And do they generally last between sort of, can they be like a week here, a week there, or is it 2 months here, 2 months there, or is it 6 months? 6 months seems like a big one.
That's a big one. That's unusual. It's normally in the corporate world, when I was starting out, it can be a week here, it can be a day here, it can be a day here, it can be very short contracts. So you need a lot to kind of keep you ticking over.
Did you do any unpaid work when you were sort of early?
Very little. I would say unpaid work, only do it for the experience. It's pretty rare for people who do give you unpaid work to then give you a paid gig. I would honestly say that. I think as an editor, they I've done a few because I thought I wanted to get good at Final Cut Pro, or I'm not doing anything anyway, and I want to I want to keep working and keep my sort of skills up. So I have done a few. Um, you can do it for that reason. You can do the odd one to try and get some contacts, but generally they're the hardest jobs you'll ever do, and those people very rarely come back and give you paid work.
So that you have to be aware of kind of scammers almost.
Scammers, I mean, they're not explicitly scammers. They're just over promising what it's going to lead to. But that's
Right.
different to work experience. A work experience is unpaid, and that is worth it. I've done work experience at companies, and that's obviously completely different kettle of fish. You're then getting your foot in the door, and those do lead to jobs.
What sort of, I mean, the students won't necessarily know what sort of companies are out there. Have you got any names of companies that you've worked with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, then they've sort of collected a lot. What's happened is a lot of small independent production companies have come under a few big umbrellas. So The Apprentice is made by Fremantle. If you look up Fremantle's website and look at the number of companies that they actually own, it's unreal. They're sort of absolutely enormous. They've all got their own different names, but they're all under Fremantle. So that's a big one. Mentorn is still a very big one. Yeah, I mean, who else? Let me look through my CV, see what else. Do you know what? There's a company called Arrow who what I found with American companies coming and commissioning in the UK, they don't do what the BBC do, which is give you a job, give you a job, give you a job. They find one company they like and they send all their work to it. So Raw do all the Netflix true crime work. They are pretty much exclusively that, and they've done very, very well for themselves. So if you're true crime, that's my thing. Raw is the company. If you want probably an easier way in, Arrow was a company I'd never heard of until a year or so ago, but they've got a contract with Discovery in America to make 80 hours of TV every year. So they've got a long running contract where they do high turnover, pretty low rent compared to the Netflix stuff, but it's still pretty good. True crime for the American market.
Wow. Have you ever done anything in sort of natural world, nature stuff, or is it
Would
mainly
love
human
to.
stories?
I mean, I would love to. I think that's such a niche thing for people who do the camera work and the editing. I think there's probably a select few who are kind of that's their thing because it's such high standard. The budgets are crazy on that.
Yeah, that's from the cameras to the camera operators to because of the technicalities, I guess.
Exactly. And the pressure now, every time they do one of those series, is to capture moments that have never been caught before, because that's how they generate the news about the series. So it's not like when we were kids watching it. It's now each series has to be a landmark series capturing, something
Yeah.
from the depths of the ocean that no one's even seen. So
I remember. I think it was Planet Earth where there was a shot of the snakes chasing this chameleon up a rock,
yeah,
and it was just the human story of this chameleon trying to escape the snakes. And obviously, it's not human, so you don't know what it's thinking. But the way that the story is told, and I guess that's a lot to do with the editor.
it will be. The way they're cut now is amazing. It's like that. I don't know if you've seen that Netflix one, My Octopus Teacher. I mean,
No, but I think it's something I have seen advertised. Yeah.
yeah, and that is a human story of like this guy who's like this free diver, and he befriends this octopus, and they like have this crazy. And I was working with someone, and they were like, they would have gone through like 15 different octopuses for that. You can't say. They're like, yeah, the life cycle's like 24 hours. It can't be one octopus. So you're cutting it like a drama.
Right. I remember there was a huge stink when it might have been another Planet Earth, and they were following a polar bear, and everybody got really upset the fact that they cut away to a polar bear in a hide in a zoo. because obviously camera operators can't really go into bear caves because the bear will eat the camera operator. Do you find what? So it's interesting. Can you explain maybe a little bit about that? How you're able to manipulate reality, but you have to do it ethically.
Yeah, and different jobs have different standards of what you can do, because so there are American shows where the contributors are almost like paid actors. So the people in the show, even though it's a documentary, they basically sign their life away. You can say whatever you like about them and they won't care because they're getting a paycheck at the end of it.
Is that like the Kardashians and the?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's if you do anything for the BBC, they are all over the compliance. That's what they call it, compliance, making sure you're not, deceiving the viewer or misrepresenting things.
And is that different with PSB, like Channel 1 to Channel 5 and Sky compared to
BBC
Netflix?
1 and 2 will be the hottest on it, because they're the ones who will get the bad press if someone comes out and says you've misrepresented me. The press will be all over it. So companies have been blacklisted for misrepresenting things. And whereas when you get into Netflix, it's a bit looser, and even ITV is a little bit looser, I would say. But you have to find a seed of truth, basically. You have to find a little seed of something interesting that's happened, and then you can make the biggest dramatic snowball out of it that you can, and then you're okay. Right. As long as you can trace it back to something that happened.
Right. Okay.
So
there can be, yeah. So, and I guess is that also down to what the edit producer picks up on, as far as I guess they've seen the reels already.
Yeah, edit producer as well. Do you know what, the roles of the editor and the edit producer are sort of blurring a bit, in that they would traditionally write all the voiceover and the script, and I will definitely have my say on voiceover, but equally edit producers are getting better at editing, and I've worked with edit producers who can run the Avid on their own little setup, and they're like, oh, I've just chucked together this sequence, see what you think. So there's almost that slight blurring now where they're also cutting scenes. So I think even if you want to be on the edit producer side, you still need to know how to cut a bit.
So the edit producer is kind of like the right-hand man or person of the editor.
I would say so. Yeah.
And do they come in from a different angle when they're coming in, the more production?
I would say so. They definitely are talking and managing the production team higher up. They're talking with them more. If we're doing some programs, the filming is still ongoing, and you're in the edit saying this story doesn't work, we need you to go out and film another scene for us. We're still picking up the filming. So that's the case on the job I'm doing at the moment. And for that, the edit producer will be more like a shoot producer, writing the briefs for what we need. So they'll be commissioning shoots from the sort of shoot team.
And I know I've got quite a few friends that have gone from being sort of shooting PDs and APs into the edit producing role. Is that kind of so to say to the student, so that would be maybe that somebody that's gone from a runner but has an interest in cameras, have started off as a camera assistant, as somebody with a microphone, and then basically went into the shooting role. And then from the shooting role, they start to look at the edit. So they go from when I was doing as a sort of PD and an AP, I would be out on the road for 5 days a week. I'd be like the Lone Ranger out there, completely feral. So your car would be like this, your driving skip of takeaway food and garage food, and you get back to the office and you'd be like this feral creature, like overgrown and like not washed properly. And then you've got your edit and your post and your production, which are usually quite very nice, stylish sort of office. But so there can be a transition from that sort of Wild West character to a more stable producer role, more like sort of. Would you say it's more of is it a 9 to 5 job? Is it a 9 till you finish job?
Absolutely. And really, that's quite a natural progression because, as you sort of suggested, people love the idea of going out and filming and running around the country and the excitement of doing that, but inevitably reach a point in their life where they don't want to be doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So transitioning to something where the work is generally local to your area and it is more of a 9 to 5, because if there's pressure on the edit and we're really under the cosh, I'm the one that will do the hours. I don't need my edit producer to stay there till midnight if that's happening. You know, I can do that on my own. So for them, it is more of a 9 to 5 for sure.
Okay, I think we are coming to the end now, mate, for your time. We do really appreciate you um, joining us and talking to us. It was really interesting to sort of see the progression and how you it becomes a stable career as opposed to when you're first out of university and you're green behind the gills, and you've just got to get your foot in the door. Because a lot of the students refer to nepo situations where you've got a family member that does this X, Y, and Z, and I guess that still is the case to a certain extent. But you can very much get your own way in by just grafting. Would that be something?
Absolutely. And I think in a way, you know, you get told a lot about, oh, it's hard, it's this, it's tough to get your foot in the door, but you've got to, it is possible. It's not, it's really, you know, you've got to give it a go. You've got to try and get your foot in the door. And once your foot's in the door, you've just got to show how good you are, and people will progress your career then. That's all people want, is to work for good people from that point on.
And have you ever travelled with it, or have you always been basically mainly UK based?
It's always been UK. It's always been London or Manchester for me. I mean, that's sort of the way the industry is. It does tend to congregate around hubs. If you want to be all over the world, you probably want to be directing or filming.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say Leeds is a growth area?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Channel 4, I think, are relocating up to Leeds. There's a lot. In fact, I'm doing my next job is for True North, who I think are they in Leeds, I think. And
They're Leeds and Manchester. I worked for them for a number of years doing Animal 24/7. Did some housing stuff with them. They're really, really nice. Really nice office in Leeds as well. But yeah, they expanded. In fact, the three guys that own it, Jess, Glyn, and Andrew, they started off in Calendar News, which is where I started, and they started off in their bedroom, like literally in their bedroom. So they were journos, and they started True North just as an extra thing, and now I think it's one of the biggest independent companies outside of the M25. It's a big old beast, and Sally Leake is the she looks out for talent, and so if you go to True North site, if you go to many sites actually, you'll see if you're interested in careers, there will be sections in there where you can put your name down, say hello, and they will get back to you, because they're always looking for their next kind of hungry new blood. And it's kind of exactly for the reasons is you've got to have that appetite, you've got to get out there, and you've got to put yourself into situations that you wouldn't necessarily want to be in, to get that work and start to build that profile and build that CV, and you know, you're only as good as your last job in some respects.
Absolutely.
So there's a couple of bits more. Did editing come easy to you? How did you start out? Obviously, not everybody's adept at it, and do you have to know a lot about technology?
I don't think it's. I think at the start you need to be more technologically aware, because if you're doing corporate, sometimes you're just showing up with your own laptop and doing the work on that. You're kind of managing the whole process yourself. So at the beginning, it's good to have an understanding, but I wouldn't describe it as the most technical job. Honestly, once you know the software, I work with alongside plenty of editors who are just like this on a computer. You know, they're just kind of like, you know, they're like sort of watching your granddad or something. You know, they're not like a complete whiz, but they're good storytellers. That's what's the hard thing to learn, and that's what you're still learning after 10, 15 years. And that is hard, you know, trying to work out. And you have to learn how to critically watch a show. Okay, you're going on to a new show. Let's watch the previous series. what worked, why is it that that episode hangs together well, what am I going to have to put in place on mine to make it work like that one.
Is it important to understand your audience?
Oh yeah, completely. And you start to get a sense of, oh, it's a BBC Two show, therefore it's going to have this sort of style, because channels and Netflix all have their own kind of style anyway. So even just by watching a lot of TV, you internalize that and understand, okay, if I'm going to do a Channel 4 show, it will naturally be a younger skewed audience. If I'm doing BBC Two, it's going to be older. It's going to be a slightly more methodical paced show. So yeah, you absolutely need to know that.
And for the guys that do a lot of short format things, is TV still important to TV? What do you see the future of TV? Does it panic you? Is it kind of exciting? Do you see? I remember speaking to Henry, and some of my kids sort of said to him, like, the BBC writing's on the wall, you know. And he was like, no, not at all. The BBC is going to be around till the end of the earth. And my students at the time were like 16, 17. And this was a couple of years ago. They're like, nah, mate, nah. So I'd be interested to get your take on it.
It is changing massively, and I won't lie, a lot of people I'm working with are sort of questioning their place in the industry, wondering if it's time to transition to something else. But I think the type of show is changing. The type of TV that's being made is changing. So the sort of traditional, terrestrial TV, BBC One and Two, that's sort of been disrupted. So if you made a whole career making cooking shows, your career doesn't exist anymore because everyone goes on YouTube and TikTok to learn how to cook. So
Yeah.
certain types of shows are falling away. I think there will be a smaller pool of work naturally, but it's going to be of a higher standard. I think I've only done one Netflix gig, but the edit was about 30 weeks for a half-hour show. It was unreal. The money that they're putting into getting things the way they want them. So there is still money in the industry. It's just in slightly different places, I would say.
And do you think have you developed a style of your own, would you say?
I don't think, no, because I'm not a director who says you book me, this is what you're going to get. I've got to fit into the show that I'm making. So I can't come into an established series and bring my own. I'll bring my storytelling ability to it, but it can't look like a Nick Cohen special or whatever.
Yeah.
And the difference to that is when I suppose if you're doing the first series and the first episode of a new idea, then it's tough because you're trying to create that style and establish what this show is even meant to be. So that's, I suppose, when you've got complete free reign.
And what you're working on now and what you're working on next?
So I'm doing forensics for BBC Two at the moment, which is a sort of true crime forensic investigation, and that's finishing this week. And then I'm going back to the trusty old apprentice for 6 weeks.
Mega. I mean, there's a lot more that we can go on about and keep talking about, and we do need to catch up, mate, because it has been ages. So I'll give you a call a bit later on. But again, thank you so much for coming. The guys are really appreciative of you. I'm sorry if I haven't got round to asking. Oh, okay, yeah, just a quick one before I do go. AI.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Good, bad, ugly.
That will change the corporate and short form world before it gets to me, because what it will be good at, I think, is repackaging things like sports highlights or creating clips from shows to package in a short form to upload. I think that will get disrupted first, and generally new technology does come to the corporate world quicker. It's easier for them to implement than to disrupt the whole workflow, the way we work. Whereas for me, it's going to be little differences, like my editing software transcribes all the rushes now, which is helpful. And I think it'll
Yeah.
start to give me more tools like that rather than hopefully putting me out of a job straight away.
Yeah. So you're not quaking in your boots quite yet.
Not yet.
It'll be fine, Nick. It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. All right, mate. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Great to speak to you, and I'll catch up with you later on. Hopefully, we'll have you back at another point next year, maybe, on the year after. But yeah, good luck with your work, and I'll give you a catch up later on, mate.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nick. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Hope you managed to get something out of that. Really cool guy. And make sure that you are joining us at 2 o'clock for the animator, which will be really cool as well. All right. Well, have a good afternoon. Have a good lunch. And I'll probably see you again tomorrow. Ta-ra.